everything has been one big long plan. When we first did Chalons, we ended up in the hundreds, and over time, we slowly climbing up through the rankings from like 123 to 64 to 16, 8, and now we're ranked 4. Overall, it's not been a very easy journey. It has to be a long strategic plays, a lot of drama, especially with the server. And all of it has been pretty much very, very strategic decisions that I made that pretty much prioritize achieving rank 4 and Chalons above anyone, pretty much all personal matters. So, so one other big and core will allow us to achieve top 4 is pretty much just server peace. We pretty much had to put our pride, our ego, we made sacrifices with other servers so they don't pretty much start being assholes to start soloing bosses or doing just dickish things to take our attention away from focusing Chalons. So I say that is the core and the biggest part of it. After that, the second biggest part.
So just a small thing, like because everyone thinks that you cannot get anywhere without money. What would be the highest VIP on your server?
I think that is Kanata. I think we've seen once in All Stars. He's the only one we have that did pure coining. The rest of us have a ton of bots. I think he's around 24, I believe, or 23.
Okay. And what was the next highest?
The next highest should be around 21 and 20, and that is VVV, the one that did the rallies.
Okay, sure. Okay, sorry. Go on. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, but most of us here are around VIP 19, VIP 18. I myself
VVV is VIP 20.
Yeah, VIP 20. And myself, I am
VIP 17, 18.
Yes. And I myself am VIP 17. That is Star Queen, my co-leader of RST. For those who did not recognize her voice.
So that's the point I'm trying to make, and that's the premise I'm trying to establish, that you are basically a team of 17, 18, 19, mostly except one big player. And you have still found the recipe for success in a super competitive environment like C2. So that's the premise I wanted to establish. Sorry for interrupting you. Please go on.
No worries. No worries. It's something that needs to be further explained. So the question was that what led us to succeed here? So after the pretty much establishing peace for everybody else, the next part was pretty much focusing on everyone's build. One of the critical things is knowing where to invest in, where to spend your money on, because Evony has a lot of crap that really don't do that much to your build or to your effectiveness of your running. I say this to the effectiveness of your combat. So for us, we can. How to say this? There's two core things to focus on: offense and defense. For offense, I just tell everybody to focus purely on attack. And to supplement the defensive part of the offense, I ask everyone, even the portal team, if they can, to send layers to the rallies. Because one of the biggest impacts in rallies is the number of people that joined, and if they have layers. As everyone knows, should we know by now, that pretty much the more people that are inside, the more, I say this, the more turns it takes to wipe out your army when the defenders tries to counter or attack back. So that makes your rallies last longer, the battle, and you do more damage. For defense, I think which is what surprised Vig, is the foundation for all our defense, what I recommend for our guys, is pretty much T1s. Everyone is pretty much required to build T1s. For our bigger keys, we're required to build 2 billion at least. And we usually supplement with focusing on range to make the T1s a little bit stronger. Since this is So what brought everyone here was mostly the T1 traps. So I will discuss that a little bit more, since I'll assume everybody here is for that. So for the T1 traps, the basic foundations, or something I noticed with everyone that we scout when they do T1 traps, is that the refinements are pretty low. That's what allows a lot of big keeps to solo T1 traps in one hit. The T1's refinements for mounts needs to be minimum 950. It should be 950 or above. If it's below that, it's useless. You cannot do anything below that. It'll be perfect is everything above 1,000, but 950 is the bare minimum. For HP, it's 1,700 or above. The closer you are to the maximum, the better the performance is. For debuffs, it depends. This is where you get you should build to what exactly you face. Because sometimes ground debuffs might be a little bit better if the enemy don't really knows how to deal with ground traps. Sometimes you want to shift to mount debuffs, or sometimes you want to focus on range debuffs. It really depends how competent the enemies that you face on. And different people use different things. So you need to look at your board, find out what you're getting attacked most by, and build against that one. Now, one of the lesser things that I know about T1 traps are the layers for the T1 traps. Most people do not understand that T1 traps is not really the T1s against the enemy or against the enemy march. It's mostly layers against layers. Because the T1s hold a lot of power. They can pretty much just one-shot any troops they attack, and if they get to it. But the problem is, if for ground, mount attack ground, very easy for T1s to beat that. But for mounts and range, it becomes a little bit trickier. For that one, we need to start. One thing you can do is start using traps. Traps in Archer Tower will help clear the enemy layer faster, and this will allow you T1s to attack the mounts and range much more faster, which allow them to perform way better. Another thing, depending on your situation, is the general. So you can build to have archers, the T1 archers, to help I say this, to help support the mounts. It will help greatly against mount marches, but and a little bit with range marches by clearing the mount layers a little bit faster. So this, you have to come to a decision to what type of general, your main defense general, that you want to use. You can use Tyler or any range main defense general that's focusing on range attack, or you can use mount generals like Boudica, which will allow you to build thicker mount layers so you can clear the ground a little bit faster. Because one of the greatest problems to deal with is pretty much range marches, which is a little bit more effective, not always, against T1 traps, especially if they have very thick layers. So the thicker mount layers will help you clear through that ground a little bit way faster, and which will allow you to get to the range and kill them much more faster. Beyond that,
Aru, 1 second. There's a question. Someone is asking, what keep size do you recommend before beginning a trap keep?
What keep size? Trap keep is pretty much the very beginning. If you still get into PvP, you have to do a trap keep most of the time. You can do a ghost keep, which is very skill dependent, but the potential of it's very not that high. So keep size, I say this. There's two numbers. You need, if you plan to just take solo attacks, 500 mil T1 is what you want to aim for. And about 2 mil T11 or T12 about for range. So that's about 3 billion power, 2 billion power around there. The less you can get it, the better. That's when people will be tempted to solo you. But if you want to take rallies using T1s, you need 1.5 bill minimum. So that's when you get around the 3 to 4 bill range.
Okay, so the next question, what kind of layering you suggest for 1B T1 calves that should be good for taking K45 solo and couple of rallies?
This is I want to mention this, but this is where it gets very, very annoying. But once you get 1 billion T calves around that range, people really don't want to solo you anymore, especially the smart ones. Because very obviously they will not win. And a lot of times, if they do, that means they're not very competent. There's no way a March is going to win against 1 billion TCAS. So usually at that level, you want to push to 1.5 so you can start taking rallies. Ground rallies, mount rallies will be pretty much your pretty much the ideal situation. So you can start scoring a lot of points. So what was the question again? Damn, I forgot. Can you repeat the question?
One second. What kind of layering you suggest for 1B T1 calves that should be good for taking K45 solos, so couple of rallies?
So to answer that question specifically, the answer is it depends. The more attack, defensive attack you have, the thinner the layers you can be. But if your defensive attack is really low, like below 1k, you need a very thick amount of layers. Because the goal of your layers is to kill their layer faster. So I cannot give you a straight number because it really depends on your attack. To give a rough pointer, for 2k attack, let's say 2k ground, 2k range, 2k siege, 2k mount, 10k layers and 5k layers are good enough. But let's say you have 1k, around 1k or so there, you need about 100 to 200k. You can see the big difference. Any more questions?
Yeah, for rallies, let's say that person had 1.5B T1 calves. How many T2 and T3 should be built?
I usually do 100, 10, and 1, which means for every 100 T1s you have, you do 10 T2s and 1 T3. But again, it varies because at the end of the day, when you do layers, the goal is to kill the enemy layers in one hit. So let's say you have 1.5. I will recommend around 300 to 200 T2s and 100 T3s minimum. And one of the issues with T1s, especially when taking rallies, is pretty much healing speed. T1s eat up the most amount of healing speed of any other troop, especially when it comes to power to power. So usually I recommend the average subsidies to lower down the healing cost, and as well to do as much doggies or C3, C2s as possible. Because at that point it becomes a healing contest for you. The more you're able to heal, the more rallies you're able to take. And you can do port swaps for mounts and ground rallies as well, and it'll go very, very well. Along the debuffs are matching as well. Next question.
Okay, this person he's talking about his build. I have a question for defense layers. At the moment, I have 421 million T1, 40 million T2, and 20 million T3 till T6 1 million, and rest of troops between 250k to 500k. How many other? Oh my god. Okay, how many other troops like ground, range, and siege layers should I have? I have fully extended Bidika as main general.
For your build, I recommend to hit that 500 mil minimum for solos and pump up your T2s to around 75 to 100 mil. For T3s and above, I will not really recommend building any more because you kind of have to do the opportunity cost between how much points you're giving away, because once you get to T3 and above, you start giving away a lot of points to the enemy if they're able to kill it. T2s and T1s you can build a ton of. Even the power exchange is not in your favor, you'll still end up getting much more points in BOC or Chalons, which is really, really important if you're trying to get to the top 64 or try to push your team to be the very best. So for ground, siege, and siege layers,
So Aru, I have a question. Can you compare the three kinds of trap: ground, cav, and range, or do you just have cav traps in RST?
um, all right, I'll talk to that after I finish answering this guy's question.
Okay,
For the
sure.
amounts of siege range and siege layers, ground and siege should be. It's a bit tricky. Siege can be the minimum, which is around 10k to 20k, because they're just fodder. They're most likely going to end up dying, and ultimately for T1s, they will not have a big impact on your performance. Ground layers, it's a bit tricky. You can do T1 ground to help with the clearing, especially if you have the two important very, very pieces that makes your other T1s like kind of worth it to build, but not completely. And that is the battle tested specialty that you get in SVS. If you're able to get that, that means you're able to build T1 range and T1 ground to help clear the enemy layers. But ground layers, how much? I say, like I said before, it really depends on your ground attack. But it should not be too much because it gets attacked by mounts and ground a lot. So they're not able to do too well. So I'll recommend around 10 to 50k. But to answer Viper's question about the three different types of T1s, um, for me, might be a little bit biased, but I will always prefer mount T1s over any other, because the other ones had very very clear weaknesses, especially when getting rally, that they're much more easier to deal with than compared to mounts. Mounts, you can take a ranged rally and still come out positive, but for ground, if you take a mount rally, you might do very very not so great. If you take a ground rally for range, will not do so great. So I say I'm a bias because I haven't really fully studied T1 range and T1 ground. I simply did my combat experience of testing against other people who tried, and one of our players tried a T1 ground and did not perform as well as a T1 mount trap.
Yeah.
For T1, something I wanted to test or something I wanted to see is a higher, how you say this, higher layer is a specialized team one trap where we used team one ground just purely for them being meat shields and trying to see if we do a range percent attack and see how well that performs. But I never got around to doing that test. Anything else, Viper?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
no, that's
there's another question.
fantastic. So
Sorry,
I just want
Viper.
to add, yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add something on it. In my experience, I agree with it, like everything Aru said, and I would add that mount is the only thing that actually protects higher layers also, right? Like, I mean, if you have a range trap and you want to build higher troops, your higher troops are going to get obliterated. Right. So mount can still protect higher troops. So definitely, like if you have a like if you're building it like as a base for a rally keep or something, you gotta go mounted. You cannot go anything else. You can go range. Range works amazing on solos as long as you don't take any rallies. And as Haru said, a ground rally would absolutely obliterate a range trap, or even a siege rally. Actually, a range trap does extremely badly against a siege rally. So, but if you are planning to have any higher troops, go mounted. Yeah, sorry, continue. Sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so there's another question. Someone missed it. What was the minimum wall HP defense and attack buff you suggested? He missed that part. Can you just repeat it, Taru?
Repeat that again, Queen.
The HP defense and attack buffs, the numbers.
Minimum. For mount attack, it's 950 minimum, bare minimum, and that means do not. If you get anything below that, you gotta redo it. If you check your requirements and they're below that, you have to redo it. 950 is the bare minimum. Ideally, 1,000 or better would be a deal, but 950 is bare minimum. For HP, it's 1700s. What's that bird? The 1700s is the bare minimum, but the closer you are to maximum, will be best. And for defense, Defense, sadly, one of the things I hate about this game is defense does not make that huge of an impact. But for defense, you can slack off on it and do within 20% or 10% of the maximum. Due to the way the mechanics work, where the attack has a innate armor penetration against defense, it makes defense, especially the lower tier defense, very, very useless.
And Dragon.
Yes. For Dragon, you do not forget you can also mount Refine it. If you have any from the SVS1 or SVS2, which is the King Dragon, even if you have the All Stars, right now I'm using, when I get completely zero, I use the All Stars, which is, what's the name of it? I forgot.
Nidhogg?
It's the
Nidhogg.
Yeah, Nidhogg, Wing 3, Dragon. As to turn into myself to complete trap, so I can take rallies with trap. If you get that, performance your trapping way, it takes it to the whole next level. For that, it's same as before. You want 950 minimum or 1,000 or best ideal. But generally, you want a percentage is usually you want 10% minimum of the max. The closer you get to the max, the better it performs. Next question.
Okay, for a T1 trap transitioning to a rally joining keep, what do you recommend that keep level and layering they start building? Layers that they start building.
Ooh, this one. All right. So let's assume you're a pure trap. That means you have nothing but T1s. The first troop you want to work on, the first troop you want to do is ranged. General range troops. That's the one you want to do first. You can use that to join pretty much any rally. But the range is what generally mounts help protect the range troops, and you can use the range troops to help support the rally when you take rallies against mounts and ground. So you start with a range. Start building range. After the range, it gets a little bit trickier because the problem, if you go with siege, the problem with siege is that if you start becoming weak to siege solos because you need very, very high amount siege attack to protect your siege. The ground gets pretty much attacked by everything. Mounts and at that point, if you start by the ground, mounts and ground marches will start being very effective against you. The next one is mounts. That'd be pretty much my second recommendation. Especially you have Boudica to help protect your upper stronger mounts. So I'll go mounts second. But I will not do the upper tier mounts like T13s, T12, T15s. I will start with T12 mounts. Because one, this makes it to T13, T14, T15 to help protect your T12 mounts before they get attacked, so giving them more turns to survive. And also, T12s are extremely, extremely cost effective. It's something all my alliance members have the requirements of hitting T12s. Do not heal T13s and above, just T12. Lasts much more longer and we're able to get more rally off, which means more points for us.
Okay. One second, Bluff. Shiro asked if we have any debuff generals on the wall, and I said that we have normal wall generals. He's asking if we have thought about trade-off of debuff generals on the wall. Is there any effect on that?
Oh, Shiro got it. Pretty much, this is my theory, or my hypothesis, is that debuff generals on the wall will be superior, much more superior than any normal main general, based on how pretty much the multiplicative value that debuff brings to a keep. So I would say she was 100% correct. A debuff general will be most likely superior to a main defense general. I'm still waiting for them to release a debuff general that's half in their covenant. That'll be very, very strong to get. Next question.
Yeah, no, that's it for now. You can carry on, Aru.
This. All right. I think somebody asked another question.
Okay, one second.
Yeah, so Shiro is asking, are you a brown barrister queen? Shiro is racist, so we ignore his questions like that. Shiro is extremely racist.
She's light mocha, and we love her just the way she is.
Okay, there's another person. An alliance member of mine has around 500 million T1 calves. He has a lot of high tier troops now, which is why he's thinking about switching, as he's no longer trapped but weak wall. And where he is struggling now is when to move away from flats to the majority of it, not all percent. Thanks.
So the only time you can do that, it's when you start dropping around 7 figures or high 6 figures on this game, which is pretty much extreme amounts of money. So generally for most, let's say 99% of people, you don't switch to percentage. It's because the amounts of value that T1 flats offer, it's insane. Because if you start taking a lot of strong rallies and you switch to and you remove the flats, you're gonna get killed in one hit. You need the flats to protect all your troops. T1 flats, especially T1 mounts, are the only way you won't die in one hit. So the only one you can change to a percentage very early is the defense. You can switch from T1 defense flats to ground defense flats. But everyone except for Kanata, I believe, and VVV, pretty much our biggest keeps, everyone else has T1 flats. That's the only way we can survive more than one hit.
Okay, there's another person. I don't know if I missed it, but for layers, should I start with 1B T1 and layer lower calves from T1 to T6? I'm currently working on percentage buff, but I wanted to build some higher troops for joining rallies. So you'll have to repeat it little again, I think.
Repeat that question one more time, Queen.
He has 1B T1 calves and layers lower calves from T1 to 6. If he's asking how many he has to build. I'm currently working on percentage buffs, but I want to build some higher troops for joining rallies.
I don't really fully understand the questions, but I'll try to reply to the parts I do understand. For to join rallies, the ones you want are T13 Siege, T12 Range, and T12 Mount. And for ground rallies, it's T14s. Those 4 units are pretty much the most optimal in terms of resource cost. It's something that we pretty much, the lower coin will face is how to optimize our resources and give the maximum possible value. So why not T11 Siege? T11 Siege is very, very cheap, but it comes with big issues that gives away a lot of points. So usually I will recommend T11 Siege to heal after somebody gets 0 in order to reduce the speed cost. But even then, an example, when we face in Chalons, we face 3 different teams. We can simply start sieging 3 different teams, and overall the point value that we get will be positive in the other side. But against BOC and BOG, one-on-one, it's not that great because he most likely will end up losing. For what's this first part of the question again, Queen?
He has 1B T1 calves, but then he's thinking about building other T1 calves, the layers from T1 to T6 if it's necessary. But currently he has percentage buffs because he's planning on building higher tier troops for joining rallies. So I think he wants to know whether he's on the right path.
Forget about T5, T4, and T6, especially T5 and T6. Forget about that. Don't do that. T4, you can make a case, but it's like the trade-off. Like I said before, once you start getting T3 and above, it starts giving away a lot of points. And ultimately, you need to get the tiers to get perform to a point that you're getting more points that you're giving away. But once you cross the T5 or T4 part, that's not really worth it. Especially when trying to get a high ranking in Chalons or trying to perform overall better. So forget about those three upper tiers. For T3, T2, and T1s, generally to start out, I recommend 100 to 10 to 1 roughly, but you have to pump it up to around, how to say this, let's say for solo only key, right? You can dodge all rallies. 500 mil T1s, about 75 mil T2s, and 50 mil T3s. Really doesn't really follow my rules, but generally 50 mil T2s and T3s are enough to one shot the enemy layers, not the enemies, but the enemy ground, enemy mounts. If they're able to get hit once, they were able to hit once, because you really don't want them to counter attack back. You got that down? And anything else?
Yeah, is there a way to protect T1, T2, T3 against 60 million range rally? I have a small K40 9.6B. I have 750 T1s and 150 million T2s and 50 million T3s. They die quickly even with reinforcements.
So if you're dying quickly, that means you don't have enough T1s and your flats and refinements are not that great. You should take at least minimum 2 hits. Even if I'm taking Vipers, which has pretty much the strongest rally attack, the minimum it will take me to die, it'll be 2 hits. If you're stronger, it takes more. So is a way to protect it? The answer is yes. And that comes as in traps, especially the ground traps, or the traps meant against ground, are very, very effective in clearing the ground layers against range rallies. So in this situation, when you're facing a range rally, the goal is to clear the layers as fast as possible. That's what it boils down to, because if mount against mount and they're facing off right next to each other, mount will win. So, but what makes range so effective against mounts is because they have mount layers and ground layers protecting them. So range is getting 3 hits off. So the faster you clear those mounts and ground layers, the better you will perform. So that means upgrading your outshot tower, that's the maximum you can, which will help against clearing the mount layers, and improving your ground layers and mount layers to help clear the ground layers. But you can focus more on the mount layers because mount does better against ground. And using T1 traps, using traps to help even clearing faster. So after that, you have the range layers, which clear also the mount layers a little bit faster. So those 3 things. What else? I feel like I missed the question. Did I answer the question correctly? Can you repeat the question again, Queen?
Yeah, he has 700 million T1s and then some T2s and T3s, but then he wants to tank 60B rally, but, even with reinforcement. But like what you said, that he doesn't have enough T1s,
Yeah,
or
that's the
even
big
the
issue.
refinements are not right.
Yeah, that's the big issue. Like I said before, the minimum to take a rally is 1.5 big. Once you have 1.5 T1s, you can take on as much rally as you can. You can handle pretty much any rallies in Chalons that I have. I can handle it with just T1s with 1.5 being minimized. 2, but 1.5 is the bare minimum. After that, right now at 700 mil, you're pretty much only a solo only key for solo only trap.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question. When reinforcing a trap keep, is it better to send debuff general or PvP general?
Repeat the question again. Did I not get it?
When you're reinforcing a trap keep, what is best, to send a debuff general or a PvP general?
It depends. The answer to the question, it depends. If you are a big corner, so big corners usually have much
Are you
higher.
talking to me? Yes, I'm a Bitcoiner. I mean,
For big corners, yeah. For how I say this?
I mean, less than before, but I still coin. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's a pay to win game, so it's okay
No,
to coin.
I mean,
So basically, like our strategy. I mean, our strategy in Chalons was just to outcoin everyone else.
you see that.
It worked perfectly. So it's been working for the last few Chalons.
So to answer the question, it really depends. Bitcoiners have higher debuffs, and ultimately their debuffs. I'm trying to think. If you're saying debuff general, when
Yeah, with PvP or debuff general, like if someone is getting Viper's reinforcement, I don't think they need any other reinforcements, to tank a rally. So it's something like that, right?
no, the thing is, honest, here's the condition: if your debuffs are low and they're lower than the host key that's taking in reinforcements, your debuff generals will not do anything. Your debuffs are very if you to compare to the host general, sending them a debuff generals will perform usually better if the host general has very high buffs because debuffs are multiplicators. If your buffs are very high, your debuffs will have a greater impact. But if your buffs are very low, then sending a PvP general usually perform better. So it's a very conditional situation. So let me say that in a better state. If the host, so let me repeat myself. If the host keep has high buffs, then but low debuffs, then sending a debuff general will perform better. If your host keep has low buffs and low debuffs as well, then sending a PvP general will perform better. If the host keep has low buffs but a very high debuffs, then sending PvP general will perform much better. I hope everybody got that down. Any other questions?
So an interesting question here. So what happens is like we tested it in SVS once. Um, if the rain march has like really high debuff, that also worked. Like ROM, like we were setting a trap with ROM. Of course, setting a trap with a smaller keep is very risky. But he got hit by one of the biggest keeps, and my siege march had a siege HP debuff of 804, which took place instead of the host keeps debuff. So as long as the reigning march has like a really high debuff, of course the reigning marches sub won't work, but even the reigning march can have a high enough debuff to replace the host's debuff.
Yes, that is 100% correct. Any more questions?
Yeah, but Taki has a question. My question is, as a rally filler keep, I have higher tier troops too. I have 500 million T1, cav flat refine. What do you suggest for defense? Also should be calves or go for ground defense. Mine total number of troops is 750 million SK39.
Viper, your voice is very low. Are you getting shy?
Let me just tag you on that.
All right.
I'll tell you the question again. My question is, as a rally filler keep, I have higher tier troops too. I have 500 million T1 cav flat refine. What do you suggest for defense? Also, should be flat cabs or go for ground defense. Mine total number of troops is 700 million, 750 million, and as a K39.
Generally, ground. How I say this? I do a mix of both because a little bit. The way the game works is I'm doing a little bit of flat mount defense, will have a really decent amount of impact. But however, ground in this game is broken. Mechanically, ground is favored by the game mechanics due to their high HP and high defense. Because the higher your stats are, the more exponential it grows. So if your buff percentage for defense is good compared to the people you faced, now I recommend ground defense percentage over mount defense flats. However, you can add 1 or 2 mount defense flats as a to get that, I say this, optimal ratio. Any more questions?
Nothing yet.
All right. So any questions about server leadership, or any questions about how to get a team going, or any questions in general about the economy? I've spoken about the economy. So optimizing your resources, I have not discussed anything about that yet. So as everyone knows, everyone has to use bots, especially when you compete at the higher levels. Bots are pretty much mandatory and they're really important. I do support bots because at the end of the day, you cannot commit 24 hours to this game. Everyone has life. So bots are pretty much mandatory. You want to compete, stay or maintain position or anything. So for the economy, what T1 traps, you will need to do a hellish amount of doggies. C1, C2, C3s, arguably your best friends. Because at the end of the day, one of the biggest things that will allow you to succeed in Chalons is healing, and healing. At a bare minimum, for Chalons, I prepare a minimum of 100k days. I expect everybody to meet that minimum as well, and that's the bare minimum. It would be best if you have around 300k days, 200k days, and just so we can heal whenever it's necessary, wherever we're falling behind. So to properly set up, to get all the amounts of resources, you need your rallier. Your rallier is the core, the center. It's the foundation of your alliance. It's the boss rallier. Whoever rallies the most bosses, that's the alliance you need to join. Because that's the only one that will allow you to pretty much compete. But however, you need to optimize to in the same degree your double buff percentage, the highest you can. Ideally 100. It should be possible if you set up correctly. So till you get that done, you have a bot. If you optimize it correctly, your alt should produce around 10 billion each to 20 billion each per month. If you do this for your main and having one alt, you should easily hit at least 30 billion each and getting the rewards for the resource consumption. Any more questions on that topic?
There's one question, not particular for that. I have a question. What are various ways to improve team morals?
Team morale. How do you say this?
Ice cream. No, go ahead, Rue.
You want to speak on it?
Bluff can talk about it, I think.
Yeah, come
Well,
on.
I was going to suggest an ice cream social, but that was my idea. But go ahead, Rue.
You want to say anything on it, Queen?
No, you say.
Oh man, well, you have to be peacekeeper, and also you have to pull up miracles as well sometimes. For example, how you say this? A lot of times you can never. Yes, this is something I noticed during a Chalons match a few times. Is that during the match, people just straight up give up. You can tell you should not never give up. Instead, you should be looking for opportunities, trying to find chances. Because you have no idea how many upsets we pulled off simply because we simply did not give up. We did that against Peak Pain in last match. They were pretty much winning the whole PIP. They was pretty much winning the whole entire match. At one point, they were leading us about 40, 30K. But we still managed to win at the last 3 minutes. Because we got off a whole bunch of strong solos and a whole bunch of good rallies targets. Simply because at the last couple of minutes, they kind of thought they simply just won and they just kind of relaxed and we snatched victory straight for them. And also for Chalons, I saw a lot of people who just getting complacent that they just thought they got second place, locked down, or whatever, or first place locked down. So what in our match, the semifinals, Wool from Wolfram pretty much just teleported next to our hive and just started rallying us. He himself went from fourth place all the way to second place, snatching second place from 350. So one of the things I will strongly recommend is to never give up. Look for opportunities, because opportunities are always there in the match. You got to look at their keeps, look at the reports, try to see who's the weakest, who has troops, who healed or who not healed. If you can divide the roles, the labor among your teammates, I'll be best. So to raise my role is pretty much it's very, very social. A lot of people had like for my team does not suffer from any low moral. They do not give up because we pulled off so many miracles. We pulled off so many upsets. It's like they know we can do it, and we did and achieved it. So, any more questions? All right. Somebody ping me here. Oh, Jupiter. I guess they missed the talk about layers. What I said about layers is it depends on your attack. The stronger your attack, the less layers you need, which is a better situation because it means you're giving away less points. But if your attack is low, let's say 1K, 500, well, everybody should be around minimum 1K. Attack, and by attack I mean range attack, siege attack, ground attack, and so on. If your attack is very, very low, then you need a higher amount, 100 to 200K. Because at the end of the day, the goal of your layer is to wipe out the layer faster. The faster the wipe out, the better your team wants before. Illicit witch match. The Peep one, we went to see it, but Pete put it down when they were recording it. Oh, we had a good laugh about that.
There was probably a lot of cussing.
No, that was an epic match for us.
No, but they were good opponents.
Yeah, they're really, really good. They were pretty much winning the whole match. Any more questions? I might have missed a couple. Ooh, King Resist. How do you feel about split Type 1 traps? Do not do that. Do not do that. That's a huge no. Because you are, in this game, due to the way defense scales or the way defense works, it's what allows it's what allows T16, T15s to overpower naturally the lower tiers. So this makes it that you want to focus on one type and just pretty much make it as strong as possible. So splitting the resources, splitting the mount attack or the HP, it's a really, really bad idea. So the only thing you can do in terms of splitting is building T1 range for T1 mounts if you have the battle tested base specialty from SVS. Otherwise, do not build that range. That's the only kind of split you may want to do for T1s. Correct. Just choose one lane. The answer, Yenwick, Queen, can you rate that? I like the sound of your voice more.
Which one?
Again, wait.
Can you talk about trap scoring in Battlefield? Do you think it is possible to get more dragons?
I'm trying to. T1's, the answer is yes. And a big possibility of that to get to All Stars as a trap or to get Red Wings as a trap. Everything after you got all the basics down, everything will depend on the amount of speed that you have. Your bread and butter technique will be core swaps. If you have enough speed to go to pretty much go through all that process, you can't make it to All Stars. You can't make it to a complete Red Wing Dragon as a trap. Read this one as well, Queen. The one right below it, Carlton.
1 second. How about T1 ground with defense flats?
So this is the very annoying thing about the mechanics of Evony is that the defense does not scale linearly. They scale worse than HP does. If the concept of effective is there's something called effective HP. That means the total amount. If you multiply defense and HP, you get something as effective HP. Ground does not have it scales less or scales worse than HP does if you continue to stack it. So the fence flats will perform the worst of any other stats in the game. So Team 1 ground with defense flats, it's terrible. Extremely, extremely terrible. I will strongly, strongly recommend against it.
Okay, the other question. I've heard T1 Cavs, T4 Siege, and T12 Arch are important for a trap key. The Siege confuse me though. Are they really good for traps or are people blowing smoke?
People are blowing smoke for T1 Siege. T4 to T1 Siege are sadly the most useless unit in the whole entire game. Oh man. The reason they're extremely, extremely useless, if you can make it work, that's a extreme miracle. The reason they're extremely, extremely useless is because the first unit they attack is pretty much, I believe, is the ground unit. And ground unit has the highest defense of all the units in the game. So you need an insane amount of T1s, T2s, T4s to kill even a small amount of layers of T1 grounds. Because you have to understand, the higher the defense is compared to the innate attack, the better defense works. But the lower defense is compared to the attack, the worse defense works. It's kind of logmatic. I don't know what's the word of it. Where pretty much if I say this, if HP has a scaling of 1, then defense will vary between 0.1 to 1, depending on how much attack the enemy unit has. And pretty much T1 Siege has the worst attack in the whole entire game. And ultimately, I'll strongly, strongly recommend to not build any T4s Siege and down.
How about higher tier siege?
Higher tier Siege? Yeah, higher tier Siege. It really depends on if you have the Sith gear for Siege range. Because if you don't have it, let's say you have the Arch one, the very basic one, which is 10%. Do not build T5 to T8. I believe that's the next range. Because up to I forgot the ranges.
The magic.
I really.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because for example, I have the 50% one specifically with 50%, and that makes T9 and T10 Siege more effective, very effective, because they will start attacking the enemy archers, which makes my T1s survive a little bit more. So So T9, C10s typically are good, but not always. What happened, Viper?
No, nothing. Sorry.
So,
Viper's in a meeting.
no.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, the next one. Does the defense general matter if it's all about the gear refines? Like, would ruining a mounted wall general is better than having someone like Leo or Marshall, etc.?
It does not matter much, to be honest. It really depends. The defense general is really more supplementing the T1s, but it does not have overall a very huge impact. And the reason for that is because percentage don't have a huge impact on T1s. They do impact, but not by a great amount. So usually, if you're going to focus on your main defense general, I would recommend focusing on your range attack defense general, one that focuses on range attack as much as possible, because T12s, T11s, and range and above will have an impact on your defense and improve it as well. So generally, I will build my main defense general and I will complete T1 trap for a range one. But T1s themselves don't have too much of an impact. As for Budokai, some people like going for her. I would do her if I was gonna do very thick mount layers, especially for T12s mounts. If I wanted some more protection for them, but overall, a range attack defense. If you're not training upper tier mounts, you should be doing the range attack, the main defense general.
Okay, the other question. What about flat HP calves, attack, archers, and sieges? Does that worth doing?
Repeat that one more time.
Flat HP calves, okay. And then attack for archers and siege. Attack percentage, I think.
So, like I said before, siege attack is completely utterly useless. For attack range, it's I would not really recommend. It's not optimal. It's not optimal. I'll still shift to T1 mounts. The reason is you can go percentage attack range and just build that T12 and above range, and that is more optimal for you, making use of limited resources. Because in terms of pure defense, T1 rounds are better. If you're not just going to use a unit for that as a pure as meat shield, T1 round as are better, assuming not invest any type of mount flats. But overall, it's better to invest mount flats attack, mount flats HP on mounts. Overall, that just simply performs way better. It works, especially if you know on the weird. What you're suggesting kind of works, maybe a bit on the weaker side, but you really cannot really compete with the best using that.
So, kind of the cookie cutter recommendation that we make is for wall generals for your gear, focus on flat mount refines. This is for free to play players, but when you're doing your spiritual beasts and other stuff like that, try to focus on archer attack and percentage HP and siege HP. If you have higher tier sieges for joining rallies and stuff like that.
Okay, the other question. Between subordinate attack and trap triggering chances in Monarch Palette, which one is more suitable for a trapper?
Trap triggering.
Trap triggering. Okay.
Yeah, trap triggering, assuming you're optimizing to the same degree. Trap triggering will be better to help you clear the layer, especially against a range march or a range rally. The traps help clear the ground layer much more faster. But you also had to also be aware that traps consume very high amounts of resources, and you should start building traps after you complete your T1 your trap after. I think you don't need more resources. That's when you start building traps because, and you'll see Chalons, once they die, you don't get the resource bar. It's pretty much a one-time use. For my team, we only build traps on very, very important matchups like the finals, semifinals. But any normal build C, build G situation, we don't build traps because they would just end up disappearing. It's not really worth it. Only worth it when it matters. So many questions. What's the next one, Queen?
I'm checking.
For Pavi, for the unbalanced resources, you kind of have to adjust your key to suit that. For example, you'll be building more sawmills, more focusing more on generals that gather on lumber mills and stuff like that to counter off that unbalance. As well, if you spend money, the main package, you can pick up one type that you want the most, and that helps a lot, especially building really big keeps.
Can you explain for free to play players which generals are the best for defense?
The thing is, Evony keeps releasing new generals every single time, and that list changes so often. I just don't know keep track. But generally, for defense, main defense, what you're looking at, so I can give you the rule break. Generally, what you look at is for attack. Range attack is the highest. You want the highest range attack possible. So I would recommend focusing range attack percentage for main defense generals. Budokai is, I spoke about a few times. It's really hard to say she's useless, but she's not. Even though her percentage do not get that much mount, they still add a little extra to it. So I cannot really dismiss her. But she slowly, a little bit makes you strong. Your team mounts stronger, but not that much. But having perfect refines does more impact compared to having a maxed out Budokai. So yeah, so just focus on range attack if you're looking for your T1 trap main defense general. Whoever has the highest is the one you picked, and also you measure by how easily it is to max out their rest stars or how accessible it is as the second qualifying criteria. So for me, once I last took a look at the general list, I also saw as Tyler because he was easy to get in the relics. And that was my recommendation of him at that time. I don't know who are the latest ones. I just cannot keep up with the list. Next question.
Okay, 4 types of traps. So you suggest traps that kill ground? I don't quite understand the question. Mufasa, he's asking. 4 types of traps. So you suggest traps that kill ground?
Yeah, those are T1 traps. They overall perform the best compared to the other type of threes. And you want to compete at a higher level, performance optimizations are critical and most important. Next question.
Okay, going down, scrolling down.
For LifeLock, going back to his question, between subordinate city attack and trap triggering chance. Now that I think about it, it shifts to more. It depends. So
No, he's asking. Sorry, traps. I mean like arbiters or stone, etc. Rocks trap trigger. Okay, he's asking about trap.
Well, yes. The ground trap is better. It's the replacement is the mount against the mount ones, but the ground trap is typically better because they help you clear out the layers faster. You can do the mount ones as a replacements depending how you put your keep, but the anti-range, anti-siege are not good. Do not test those because at the end of the day, they're not really in terms of performance value. If the main march they're sending you is range, you don't want to do anti-range traps because it's not really worth the cost. Because clearing those ground layers, mount layers faster, and getting teams to kill the range, it's overall costs less resources, gives you more points, gives less enemy more points, and overall just performs better and superior compared to the other troop traps.
Translation. Okay, I have a question. I have 2 million T10 to T14 layers, 1.6 million and 600 million T1 horses. Can I do good T1 defense with such high troops?
Can you ping me his thing? I did get the numbers right.
She has 2 million layers of T1, T10 to T14. Okay, so those considered as high troops, and then 600 million T1s, T1 caps. So she's asking if that is good for a defense. We're having such high troops.
The answer is no. You are in a very ugly position. Very, very, very ugly position. You kind of the problem is you pretty much just a bag of points to the enemy. That's the issue. Oh man, because anybody try to solos you or range solos, they'll get enough points to trigger you, and that's not really what you want. You're in a position to join rallies, and so what I recommend for you is to join rallies as much as possible to get rid of that upper tier, and lower that amount to a more manageable degree that you aren't giving away so much points. Well, right now with what you have, you don't want to take any solos or want to take any rallies. I do not recommend it. You're in a pretty much ugly position. You kind of crossing the point from being a pure T1 trap to being a keep that joins rallies. You're kind of in the middle, and that's not really a very ugly position you want to be in. Any more questions?
What would be better amount of T1B for a K38 to actually be able to block people out?
Repeat that question one more time. I think I'm squeezing
What
out.
would be better amount of T1B for a K38 to actually be able to block people out? I think some missed the early session, so.
Yeah, I guess since some people missed the early ones. If you want to handle solos, I recommend 500 mil. If you want to handle rallies, 1.5 mil is the minimum. 500 mil is enough. 500 mil is enough to handle a solo from Viper or any of the strongest players in the game. Assuming you have the correct layers. If you don't have the correct layers, you get killed in one hit.
Okay, trap trigger is expensive to rebuild every battlefield. Is there a specific level trap trigger that effective and efficient to build all layers and just focus on ground killing layers?
Like I said before, the trap triggering thing is what you do after you finish your keep. After you finish it, that's when you waste what extra resources you put into waste. But if I will say there's two. The T6 is the most optimal in terms of resource cost. T6 traps, but I only use that against really important strong matches. I'm just looking to save on cost and just use it everyday match, and that'll be T1 traps. They're not really great, especially against higher tiers, but nonetheless they'll help you slowly to get the job done, and that's what matters. So T1 traps for everyday use, and T6 when it really matters.
Viper has left the stage. We've taken over the Viper show. Let's go crazy.
Yeah. Why not Viper? Any more questions?
How many ground layers are safe to build with?
I recommend around 10k to save up to give away less points and to not to give away less points and less healing cost as well. Did Viper get kidnapped or something?
Okay, what debuff T1 traps is better to focus? Sub-general equipment.
This one, the answer is it depends. Generally, what I recommend my players for 9 to do is to tally up what type of solos you're getting and build against that. But if I had to pick, I'll give it the definitive answer. I will say mount. Yeah. Mountain ground. And just simply try to pull away from the range one. So you can be better at what you do, especially. And pretty much, be better at what you do, which is mountain ground. Oh, somebody's getting married?
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Okay, Stuntman is asking why focus on range attack for defense. I think he misunderstood probably. We said that don't focus on range attack, right?
Who?
Stuntman is asking why focus on range attack for defense. I think maybe he misunderstood.
So range attacks. If you're doing T1 traps correctly, you'll be building T12s, T13s, T14 range. And those range will help you kill the mountain layer faster, and also against other range march or ground march, they will also attack and support your mount layers. Because after a certain point, the limit you can have is around 2 billion T1s. And once you pass that limit, you really can't pass that limit. It's the very hard limit. After that, you still need to improve because everybody keeps throwing more percentage, more buffs. And ultimately, at a certain point, I don't know, 2 3 years, maybe the T1s will not be as effective because the buffs will be around 9 or 8k or something. So overall, you need to look for other ways to improve your T1 trap. And the best way to improve the T1 trap is adding range layers or thick range upper layers. And to make those thick range upper layers, what you do is focus on range percentage. And that will pretty much overall boost the performance of your shot peak. So that's why you focus on range percentage for your main defense general.
Okay. Are partial flats effective in larger keep with T1s?
Partial? No. You got to go all the way all in into one type. Do not do partial. Do not do partial. Do not do half percentage, half flats. Do not do mix the flats around. Don't. You can't. Because that makes it completely, utterly useless. Because it kind of scales, the T1s kind of spell, T1 flats kind of scales exponentially. The more you have, the better it is compared to the previous amount. Having 300k T1, like 3k T1 attack flats will perform, let's say, much more worse than having 4k. Like you get double hits, double the damage. It's just performance-wise, you need to stack it to the maximum degree. That's why it's also very important once you're ready for SVS to get the battle-tested specialties. Because 500 flat attack to your T1s is a massive boost as well. And do it for your assistants and your main generals. So that's 1,000 more.
Okay, this is a good question. For a player building out of T1 trap in the bad position of 6 to 8 billion power, which troop type should be the focus to still be effectively defensively joining rallies and attacking?
Can you repeat me the question?
Okay, for a player building out of a T1 trap in the bad position of 6 to 8 billion power, he's not a T1 trap, but now he wants to be a T1 trap, but he's already 6 to 8 billion power. Okay, so he's asking which troop type should be the focus to still be effective defensively joining rallies and attacking.
So like I said, so the experience I have, you probably already know this, you're in a really, really bad position. Because T1s are pretty much the foundation. Without it, you get killed pretty, pretty fast. So if you're looking to become a T1 trap, straight up build more T1s. That's the main goal. If you're already 6 to 8 bill, the goal should be building 1.5 or 1.02 billion T1s because you most likely want to get rallied. You need that amount of T1s to survive the rallies. Even for range rallies, you built that amount, it will go positive in your side. So if you want to stay effective, it's still pretty much the same as the T1s, but except for focusing on mount defense flats, you'll be focusing on ground percent flats. That's the only difference. And you also start building slightly to more on siege department. Instead of a arching bow for your main defense general, you'll be doing axe. So because you also will start need to building up that siege attack to protect your siege troops. So it's a little bit difficult, especially to repair your keep at your stage, but it is possible. It will take time.
Okay. Now I'm seeing that Cav Speedbook is supposed to work. Has something changed since it was declared not working for defense? In what way does it help if you're getting rains?
Cast speed. I'm still with the knowledge that it does not work. You kind of speak more to Derek on that one. I do not know about speed. The only thing I know is I can pretty much, when the claim Derek made that does not work, I can support that. My experiences, my test as well, proves that it does not work. So I currently have not seen any evidence or have seen any experience that it does work. So I can't really answer that question.
Okay, there's a question. We get across smaller keeps, like we are talking keeps with 700 million power that has a K40 with 2500 buffs, simply can't break down. When we try to build similar keeps for our small guys, we don't see the same. How can it be? Not sure if it even makes sense.
Repeat the question one more time.
We get across smaller keeps, like we are talking keeps with 700 million power that that as a K40 with 2500 buffs simply can't break down. When we try to build similar keeps for our small guys, we don't see the same. How can it be? Not sure if it even makes sense.
I don't need to see the reports. I'm going to take a guess and say you're talking about defense, upper tier defense keeps. There are certain really powerful keeps, and they are upper tier ground defense keeps, and they are very strong. Right now, ground defense is a little bit too broken. That Isaac, whatever his name is, ground main defense general should be gotten by everyone. But right now, I'm assuming your buffs don't match ground defense and ground HP because they scale a little bit exponentially together.
Hello,
We lost Rue.
Aru?
He got kidnapped.
Aru?
He's not here, Queen.
Okay, can you
I'll see what I
message
can
him
do.
or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
hold on.
His laptop died. his, his phone died, now laptop died. Okay, he's asking for few minutes. He's charging his laptop. Okay, Bluff, do you want to talk about portal management for a small alliances? Like we are not talking about RSP, VIG level, like our level, mid level of alliances during battlefield.
Yeah, just very simple suggestions. A lot of it's just common sense. So one of the things that we do to make ourselves competitive, because we have especially when we're in the early stages of Chalons, we have a very rapid fire pace of sending out rallies. So one thing that we find effective is to have an organized portal team, and you basically just assign people to say, hey, you watch this portal and this portal, and everyone who's on that team is assigned a very specific portal, and they go there and they manage that, and we just try to keep them from going red, and we get the enemy to port lock themselves pretty early, because it has to work in tandem with a high-paced rally offense from your rally team. So if the rally team is doing its job and the portal team is doing its job, we get pretty much everybody that we face port locked within the first 10-15 minutes. When it transitions into later stages of Chalons, where you're facing better and stronger teams, then it becomes, okay, who is getting low? Who do we keep out of the portals? So instead of, hey, keep all the portals blue, then it becomes, okay, keep, I don't know, let's just say AAD. It's like AAD is getting, they only have 7 jumps left, so keep AAD out of the portals. So if it's Wolfram or if it's 350, let them have it, but keep them out. So it becomes more of a which alliance do you focus on at that later point in the game. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of the portal supervisor. That's my side job. My main job is taking good photographs and making sure that we have pretty pictures of our rallies and our team. But they gave me that second job to have. So I don't know. I kind of do what I can. But I think Rue's back.
Yeah.
Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Hopefully you should die anytime soon. So charging.
Okay. So,
I want to keep adding a little bit more to blood. Our tactics change depends on who we're facing. For teams that we are completely massively weaker than us, we just send reinforcements to the portals, and just because they cannot kill our solo marchers, so we just keep them out that way. For teams that are a little bit of threat to us, we do what pretty much blood says. We just focus on all portals and just take them back, so not let them get any on ports. But for teams that are equal strength to us, we only focus on one team at a time to completely lock them out.
okay, so there's another question. 10B K40 with 5 million to 8 million siege layers. Should I dismiss them?
I have biased or something I refuse is to dismiss troops, because I always try to do my way to make them work. Which troops are there again? Which troops are there again?
5 siege layers.
Which tier?
He didn't specify which tier. It just say 5 million to 8 million siege layers. Probably higher layers.
Don't dismiss anything about T5, because you can make those work over time, and ultimately I would not try my best to not waste resources or make do with what I have. But the only one I will sadly recommend to dismiss will be T4 and above, because just how utterly useless they are. I mean, the only purpose they have is just give enemy points, and that's it. In fact, our siege rallies, when facing against strong keeps, the only reason we're able to go even or go well in siege rallies is simply because they built too many T4 too many T4 sieges. Simply because T4 sieges are there, we're able to get a decent amount of points and not go horribly wrong in siege rallies. They're just really, really terrible units.
Okay, so the next question. Building a huge 1.5B T1 wall, you would need to sacrifice keep level build. Where is the break-even point for this? I was told that K42 is most efficient, then build out layers, T1 and power. Do you agree?
Yes and no. Yes and no. It really depends on your income, to be exact, how much you spend in the game. If you're a big horner, then the answer is yes, you should do keep level. Because what keep level matters in truth is purely your research. The only reason you're upgrading your keep level is to upgrade your military academy. That's the only value in keep level that exists. That's the main core value. The second great value is really rally spot, but does not really compare to the percentage buffs you get from military academy. But the problem is, free to coin low coiners do not have a high budget, and ultimately they will never have the 4K attack buffs, 3K HP defense that top players that spend a lot of money have. And because of that, upgrading their keep level for them is not really that important or really that great. The only value they will get off upgrading the keep level is purely the debuffs that are in the research. That's the only main value that they will get, and that's the only thing that they should focus on. The other stuff is just filler. You should not focus. If you're free to play or a low coin, you should not really focus the percentage unless you're a rally joiner, which you can focus purely on the rally join attack, which is not everything, but generally only the big bosses, which have debuffs, is typically the best for everyone. But overall, I will say building the T1s, 1.5 billion T1s, are much, much more higher priority. Because that is the foundation, that is the basic. Because without that, you'll die very easily. You're not really going to perform very, very well while the 1 billion T1s. After you get that done, you can start focusing your keep level. But what I do to optimize resources, I do both. Because keeps require less food. So what I do is pretty much gather or focusing on getting wood, a bunch of wood as much as possible, and prioritize that a little bit more. And getting so I do a lot of rallies. I usually have spare food from upgrading keeps.
Okay. Wall, dragon, flat refine, attack, defense, or HP? Which one is better?
Attack.
Attack, okay.
Hey, Rue, there's some people that are a little bit incredulous and want more information about how you know that the mount speed book doesn't work. The skill book for mount speed doesn't work. Do you want to give them information about that? I think it was Evony Jake, or what was his name, that did that video about the
Derek.
Derek, yeah.
Requires of need. I think Derek provides most of the proof from it, and because how you say this is that ultimately, if I really don't know the exact turn by turn movement of all the troops. I still have questions about it myself. But if the only thing I know is that if speed truly worked as they say, then the whole game you'll see massive differences in the battle reports. Because either you have pretty much mounts, you have mount speed to be running up, you have mounts pretty much running off to their deaths because they pretty much get killed faster by the enemy range. Or like in the reports, Evony lied that the mount speed is 600. It isn't. It's been found out by Derek. And as well, you take a look at the subsidy mounts, and it is 300. So I don't think we can trust Evony if on the things that they say they report. We all have to look at the code and everything, which I did following Derek's instructions. I think he's the only one that I pretty much respect when it comes to knowing about the mechanics of the game. He said a lot of stuff that I already tested, already know existed. He also taught me some new stuff, so I pretty much trust him when he says on the speed book.
Well, I totally take exception to when you say we can't trust Evony. I totally trust them completely. I think they're pretty 100% on everything that they say they're going to do, and yeah.
Okay, the other question. Do you all have gear recommendation for Sieve or any of the free gears? I think for T1 traps.
Archer gear, which gentlemen, wherever they miss is pretty much the default one for any defense for your subsidies. Because the debuffs are huge. In fact, they make a way bigger hit, but pound for pound, they usually make a bigger impact compared to percentage wise. The only time you use Adis or its upgrade, it's usually for PvP generals. To be exact, when you're trying to upgrade to get more attack, so you can score more points. So pretty much, Archie. I need to take a look though. I have a recommendation guide that I have for my own alliance, which I did the analysis for those who got Sith gear, those who have Archer gears, and give them the best builds. And I need to dig that up and look at it. I don't know where the hell I put it at now. Any more questions?
I have mounted speed book on wall. Do I need ground speed book?
I'm real. Based on what I know, based on the information Derek gave, I just removed the mounted speed book. I really don't see the impact and the value performance of the speed book. I don't see it at all. But even the concept itself, if you have your mount pretty much just rush it into the battlefield, this simply gonna get killed by range faster. I just don't see the value, even theoretically. In theory as well.
Talk and he
Fix his
accidentally
mic.
screwed up.
Yeah. But it's pretty normal with these noobs around. He probably spent too much time at home lately.
All right, two more people, Queen and Blood.
Yeah, give me a
Can you both hear me or no? Kara?
Sorry, bro.
Huh? What
Just
happened?
confirming if you can hear me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bro.
you-
Yeah, we can. It's just trolling you us.
Alright. Trying to get Arista back on stage. I don't see her.
Yeah. Wait.
Invite
Invite to
send.
speak. Invited already?
I
Who was
have.
else?
I invited her. I don't remember who else. There she is. Yeah, she's
Alaf
already
was
invited.
one.
She hasn't accepted. I'm gonna take Rome's admin permissions away.
Yeah, sorry, totally my bad. Wrong red button. I was on my PC and I tried to jump on the call and talk, and it wouldn't let me, like, you couldn't hear me. So I was like, okay, I'll close it from my PC and join from my phone, and then ended up closing the event rather than just fucking leaving myself. Sorry about that.
All right, no worries. Can you approve Queen's request to speak?
We
yeah.
accepted, but I mean, we sent her the request. I don't know if she accepted already.
There she is. I see her.
Green. Yeah, I agree. As let's cause roam together, chutia.
Hey, you actually said it right that time.
Okay, Aloof is here. We just need.
Okay. Okay,
Come
I joined.
on. Come on, Ron.
I joined.
Everyone knows you don't touch the red button. That's like the one rule of broadcasting is you don't
No, I
touch
had
the
to
red
press
button.
the red button, but the thing was,
Bro,
the
you
red
had
button
him
gave me
tilted. You had him tilted, bro. That's what happened. You started saying ground speed and cap speed books don't work, and Rome was fucking furious.
Triggered.
Okay,
He was
can
like,
you hear
"Fuck
me?
this shit." Yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
I did get triggered, to be fair, and I was trying to get on the stage, but then people couldn't hear me, and I ended up ending the event rather than leaving myself.
He did this on purpose, intention,
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
sabotaging.
Oh,
I promise you, he did it intentionally because he didn't like
Yeah.
the whole speed book conversation. It was
Uh,
censorship. He's like the Chinese Communist Party. That was. That's it.
uh, no, bro. I just sort of got up on stage and said my piece. That was it. That's what I was gonna do.
You
All
hate
right.
Derek. That's why
We
you
had to say
did
about
it.
the skill books.
Well, hate is a strong word.
We can debate skill book, bro. But I'm just gonna say this that I don't think Derek is right on that one. That guy's found a lot of good things. Like I think counter attack damage. Oh, I think it was a Derek theory before other people sort of started looking into it. But I think he's 100% wrong about the speed books. I've personally tested the easiest litmus test, and I know this is not PvP. The easiest litmus test is if you're getting wounded on a boss, like let's say you're getting 9,000, cabs wounded on a B18 or B17 or B16, whatever you guys can kill. Add the speed book to that main general, not the assistant. For whatever reason, this doesn't work if you do it on assistant. Add it to the main general and send the exact same march back. The number of wounded would reduce.
That
And that
doesn't
just
really.
goes on to prove that the speed book actually does change the outcome. Yes, it does not prove what happens in PvP, but it definitely proves that the speed book actually works.
But that doesn't really make any sense because boss versus boss mechanics should be that the boss doesn't really attack first, but you should be attacking only and counter attacking. So speed shouldn't have pretty much zero impact in that situation. So I'm thinking that mostly a bug or something. It
No,
changes.
that's why he said when you're getting wounded on the boss. So that means you're going more than one round.
Yeah, you need to get wounded, and the wounded will reduce because as soon as you add speed book, that just is a litmus test to say that the speed book works. It doesn't prove anything more than that. It doesn't prove if it's 600 or 300 or 5,000. It doesn't prove any of that. It just proves that the book actually does something. So
Oh,
it's not
that's
a useless book. That's all you're proving by reducing the number of wounded on that boss by once using the book and once without the book. That's like a litmus test.
so most likely it does something, but not very likely increases speed and probably increases some kind of buffs or something relating to bosses. So
No,
the question is, how
the
much
other
wounded?
thing is we've done tests previously. We've done a rally on Nox, and we've done the same rally again. The only difference was the speed book, and then when we shared reports of that, it was like, oh, did people get in the same order into the rally, and this and that, and a thousand other variables that nobody can ever control in a battlefield scenario. Nobody can ever actually, you can't define the order in which people get into a rally. Even if you try and do that, it might not settle in the same order. And a lot of other things like the Archer Tower was burning and stuff like that that was thrown when we shared those reports and showed evidence that speedbooks do work. And I've
Yeah.
tested speedbooks on my own keep and they do work. So it's, you know, what he's done is he's taken one account and hit, I think it
Okay,
was a ranged rally.
let's not go there. Let's not go there about like the person. Like, let's not attack the person.
No, I'm
But
not. I'm just saying what
Big and
testing
RSP have
was.
played SVS. We've put on the skill book, the speed book, the ground, and the cab speed book on wall, taken it off, and hit the keep with exactly the same rally composition, and the outcomes have been different. And I've tested it in Throne as well. So HOT versus RSP almost about 11 weeks ago. I was on their Throne and I took off the ground speed book from my main PvP ground march, and the results were significantly different. Like my ground march just did not do anything. And I added the ground speed book the next time and it chewed through like four of their marches. So the speed book does work. That's like guaranteed. I was just saying test it on a boss because anybody can do that in game. You don't need to go in a throne, you don't need SVS. Like those reports are in public domain. and can be shared again if you want, but 100% they work. The only thing
Paone?
that's debatable is Evany lying about 600 or 300 because I've seen that, and that's
I
the
think
one that none of us can prove right or wrong.
I think we've been proving this 300 because that's what makes more sense. Pretty much ground's the first to reach a battlefield, the first to do anything. Because if Mount was the faster than ground, then they'll be the first to act. But they always not. It's ground. It's more that kind of proves that ground is the first one with 350 to do anything. And also, I would like to see those reports that you guys tested to see what it's the difference in theory. Because right now, what we really need to discover is how turn by turn how all the units act. That's the only way we can discover exactly what kind of influence the speed book has, because it can be something else besides the speed book. But right now, it's really unknown.
Yeah, so happy to share those. We'll have to dig them, but I think C5 Discord, the reports. I think they posted in mechanics section. I'll find the link for you. I'll post it here again.
All right.
What was the other thing you said? I forgot. Oh, the ground. Yeah. So why does the ground engage first? The theory that I have, and this is purely speculation, I have zero proof or any evidence to suggest this. It's just speculation. I think the troops' starting position and battlefield is different, and I think ground is like the first troop in that layered setup
Formation.
formation. Like ground is the first one that is out there, and that is why ground engages first because it has an advantage of distance that the cabs have to cover up. And that's why when you apply the speed book, you would see, like, when you add the mount speed book, the cab speed book, you would see that your mounted start killing a lot more against archer rallies if you have all 16 flats. And this is on a big keep, this is not a trap keep. As opposed to when you don't have the speed book, because it takes one extra round for the cab to then meet the incoming archers. And like as I said, I have zero proof to be able to say that is the way that battle mechanics work. Like that's just speculation based on, or like guessing something based on how I've seen reports.
Mm,
Anywho, your session, your day, not trying to steal your spotlight, so I'll go back into
No,
the audience.
no. Thank you for the information. That's how if
yeah.
we can get those reports, that'd be
For
very
me,
appreciated.
yeah, I'm pretty skeptical because for 20% to work, that only makes something that takes 6 turns to take 5 turns. But the battlefield's about like I think it's 1,500 or no, it's 1,300 long. Even at 300 range, if it's even the speed book still existed, I really don't see how it can make a strong impact or a
Okay,
noticeable
so that's
impact.
the other thing that we probably disagree on. That the battlefield, in my opinion, is a lot bigger than 1,300 units. That's purely because of the range that you get on T15, T14, and T13 onwards.
Yep.
The siege range plus the 15% range book that you can add and the 200 units you can add, that puts it at 2768, not 1,300. If it was 1,300, you seed soloed somebody, you wouldn't be, like, if you big seed someone, you wouldn't be just targeting the upper tier. You would be targeting all of the troop types.
You
So
didn't see the code that was released by Derek from the files. He released all the range as well.
Nah. So the files that Derek posted online are from Evony Age 1. The game as it stands today is all the data is stored on server side. It's not stored on your mobile phone. Like all the processing happens on server side. So that data set that he looked at, it was the right way to decompile an application, an Android application. But the config files that he was looking at was from an old game, like the older version of Evony. So it wasn't the right file for the version of game we're playing. and I've tested this personally myself.
Interesting. So I'm wondering why the heck this H1 right here is inside the mobile game. All of the two questions.
Because it was a Flash game back in the day that was then converted into HTML5 that now we play on our phone, and you can play on PC clients as well. You could just run a Wireshark on your own computer and you'll see.
Yeah. All right. I think you require more tests.
I find vulnerabilities, and I do cyber for living. So if I was shit, I wouldn't have a job.
All right. So whenever
I'll put my payslip on the line to say that Evony does not store any of the files on your, like the actual game data on your phone. The only thing it saves is a profile.
All right, then. So I think we need to do more tests and more examination to actually properly figure out the truth. Because I think you were saying
I think we've completely side-railed. I will back out for now because a lot of people are waiting to hear from you guys, but happy to chat after.
All right, thank you.
On the whole mechanics things.
Thank you, Sorcerer and Rom.
All right, so back to the questions.
So which red button do I press now? Just
Yeah. So you going to the next question?
Take the blue pill. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, guys.
So I removed the 1 minute.
So I think everybody needs to ask you questions again because you definitely got sidetracked there, and we got to search for the questions.
Okay, so we were talking about 10 billion K40 with 5 to 8 million siege layers.
Even in terms of being defense, trying to protect their units, they're really terrible for the points that for the defensive value that they have and the points that they give. You're better off training your higher tier range, like T14 or T13, to protect the rest of the range. Because T4 and T1 siege are just completely utterly useless. So what's the next question?
Very small alliance here. One question about the general joining rally. 950 attack, 750 HP requirement. If Cav rally set, does the player have to have Cav general or will their range general work?
So how you say this? The answer is it depends. Now it's always it depends because a really good top tier range general, and let's say you got completely maxed out, it's gonna be any mediocre cav generals to be exact, because some of the buffs that generals gives are universal, and one of that is pretty much the attributes it gives, like 500 of each or 10,000 or whatever. That is universal. It works against any general. So if you have a general that has pretty much first level 1 general, level 20 general compared to a level 40 archer, the level 40 archer, even in the mount march will do better than have a mediocre fast calf general. But generally, you want to have each one specialized for their own marches. But assuming you have no more resources, like you only have range inside your keep, or you only have one general, then yeah, you can use the same general for other marches. But generally, you can have your own separate specialized generals. Next question.
Okay. I'm scrolling down because there are a lot of GIFs.
We're going to test
A
out.
T1
Oh, can you hear me now?
Hey,
and
Rado.
Good.
ascend first
Hey.
sub-general for buffs or work on buffs with duty generals.
Repeat that question, Queen.
T1 priority is ascend first sub-generals for debuffs or work on buffs with duty generals.
T1s, subsidy generals have a much higher. Subsidy generals have much higher priority, far superior than duty generals when it comes to your Aries. Even I'll say you're a big keep as well.
Subsidies.
Yeah, subsidies for big keeps as well have the highest priority. The only time, even above your PvP generals, your subsidies should be maximum as quick as possible. Then after subsidies is your PvP generals. After your PvP generals is your duty generals. Duty generals are pretty much in the last place. Next question.
Question. Our team usually uses a backup arc to pre-reinforce a trap to help the exchange against solos because our traps aren't building 1 billion T1s. Usually half that much. We are not playing against 60B rallies and 4K buffs outside of Chalons. They port from rallies, so we reinforce against teams with sad buffs. Is the pre-reinforcement or 1B plus the better move, or do you still need to pre-rain a trap with that much T1s? Is this too much nonsense? Nuisance.
So automatically, I can tell if you have 5 million T1s and that's not working well against solos, that means automatically the issue is refinements. Refinements are way too low and they need to be redone. So the issue that Trap has is getting assuming that person's free to play. So the issue that Trap has is getting the gems, because that's pretty much the biggest issue. What's stopping from a T1 Trap to being effective is the gems. So that person's concern is pretty much doing the events, getting which is the Arctic, the barbarians and Arctics and the pyramids, or any events that give gems. So his goal will be to gather as much gems as possible, around 5 mil to 10 million gems. If he can't spend a little bit, then I'll recommend a certain package for $20. You get about 700 and about 800k gems for $20. There's a package for that, if that person can spend. So what we'll recommend for that person, that question, is to get that person, that trap, to redo their refinements because they're not ready. $500 mil should be enough to handle any solo, no matter the situation.
Fire arrows, abatis, rocks, or traps. What should I build to have a strong defense?
Repeat the question one more time.
For this is about traps. Okay, fire arrows, rocks, or traps. What should I build to have a strong defense? In city traps.
Yeah, so I guess that person missed it. We discussed this before.
Yeah.
The answer is the ground traps, which is the traps meant to be against ground. And the reason for that is to clear the layers much more faster. So your T1s will get to the range or to the mounted quicker and beat them, because usually T1s at 500 mil, 1 billion or so can one shot whatever unit they're attacking.
Once again, don't waste resources on traps unless it's a big battle. Chalons,
Yes.
spawnels, things like
yes.
that. Don't use them for BOG, BOC. Just don't waste it.
Yes.
Save your resources.
That is correct. If for some bizarre reason you want to get traps to test or to use everyday usage, just build T1 traps, which are very cheap T1 traps. But for the big fights, when things really matter, you should build T6 traps. Those are the most effective, cost-effective ones you can have. But generally, you don't want to waste resources. You want to finish your keep first. Traps are kind of like the icing on the cake, or the very last step you do.
Okay. What is your focus on debuff for cav traps?
It's hard to say focus. There's only 3 types of units we focus on, and that's range, ground, and mount. It really depends on the culture or what you're facing against, because I'm assuming different continents has different habits, and you want to build against the most common type that you faced. So if you're facing a lot of march or range attacks, you build against range. If you're facing a lot of mount, you build against mount. If you're facing a lot of ground, you build against mount. Over time, you will be building for all 3 types, so you can switch out when needed. But overall,
We can't hear you, Aru. Bluff?
Yeah, I'm here.
Where's Aru?
Yeah, we lost him.
His phone switched off also? Can you check, Bluff?
Yeah.
very low to once.
I think he's talking.
Testing 1, 2, 3. You guys hear me?
Yeah, now yes. What happened?
I have no clues. Must be Discord acting weirdly funky.
Boss, we
Okay.
didn't. Nobody heard anything you just said. So
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm guessing.
Can you repeat?
What part did I stop at?
just start over because nobody. I don't even know. Nobody heard anything.
So let's repeat the question. Okay, so can we start with the question again?
Debuff for cav traps.
Debuffs for cat traps. The answer is it depends. It depends on the culture, the habits of who you are facing. So generally, the first recommendation is to compile what type of rallies, what type of attacks you can face most with, and build against that. So that's my number 1 recommendation. But as time goes on, you have extra materials. You'll be building for all 3 types and switching depending on the matchup. But if I had to give a definitive answer, I recommend starting with ground and mount debuffs, simply because those debuffs for archery here are typically the strongest, and getting and sacrificing for range costs a lot of cost opportunity, and you're better off building traps or building off your layers so you can clear out the enemy range layers much more faster. So what is the next question?
Okay, I would like to ask about siege weapons in 2 points. I think siege troops he's asking. First one, I've heard that using siege below tier 11 to attack soldiers and dismantle layers in a trap city is effective. However, siege troops always record a negative score during rallies. Is it difficult to turn this into a positive outcome? Second, I've heard that using siege for reinforcement is the worst option. I'd like to know the reasons.
Okay. Well, the first one, the answer is going to be a little bit difficult. Simply because Mounts has an advantage against Siege, because Siege attacks Mounts the last, and Mounts will, if so, it turns to kind of layer versus layer fights. So if the team 1 Mounts or the team 1 side clears the Siege layers faster, they will kill the Siege. But if the Siege is fast enough, especially if they have thick Siege layers, they're able to clear the defense layers much more faster and kill the Mount. So it's mostly a layer versus layer fight. So can you turn it positive? And the answer is you have to increase the number of people inside the rallies, and increase the thickness of the siege layers as well. That's the only way you can improve the situation. And what's the second point?
I've heard that using siege for reinforcement is worst option. I'd like to know the reason.
It's not really the worst option. It's one of the worst options if you have terrible siege buffs, siege reinforcement buffs. If that is the case, then yeah, it'll be a terrible thing. Then you gotta use a mount reinforcement instead to defend against siege rallies. But if your siege buffs are good enough, overall mount siege reinforcements will do better. So that is the issue of siege percentage buffs.
Okay. The next question: sub generals is better new generals with 1 to 2 stars, or free generals like Andrew Armenians with 5 red stars?
So we're slowly getting to a stage that the new generals that's coming out is going to end up being superior than the 5-star generals. We are not there yet, and right now the 5 red star generals are better. But ultimately, sooner or later, with the power creep, everything's going to release generals that even 1 or 2 stars, they will be better than the 5 stars. For now, build that 5 stars because ultimately the cost will be 20% of the Ares, which is about 900 or 800 in 5-star it. And ultimately, performance right now will improve and make it easier to get that Red Wings or to get higher tier Chalons. So right now, complete that 5-star. But over time, 1 year, 2 years down the road, you are going to replace it with a 1-star or 2 stars. But at least you're going to get back 80% of the Ares that you invested in. So that's a really good positive. And also, the events, the Ares event, it has a ton of speed, a ton of other bonuses that ultimately is really worth getting using that event and not skipping out on it. So to make it final, definitely complete that 5-star. Old City General.
Okay.
If
Next
you're,
question.
What sub
go ahead, Quinn.
what sub general do you use or recommend for me to use as a free to play trap key?
Right, but I think Blood wanted to add something.
Well, that kind of actually what Queen just asked was sort of what I was going to bring up. I was going to say to that person who asked about raising up their Ascension for their subs, I was going to recommend you go with Nero or CC rather than any others, because you get more general debuffs. That is to say, more debuffs that apply to all troop types with those 2 generals. So just my personal recommendation, focus on Nero and CC first.
Yeah,
That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, Nero and CC is pretty much what I recommend to all my players because ultimately they are for trap keeps really good, really cheap, really easy to get. But somehow Evony discovered Nero. That because a lot of big players will start building Nero, so Evans discovered that and they made it a little bit. For some reason, I noticed in the tavern it's a little bit harder to get than CC, and also he ultimately pops up in the paid events, which kind of really sucks. But nonetheless, CC is still a really hidden power, a really good undervalued subsidy generals. But sadly, Nero is better than CC purely because HP scales better, and debuffing HP has a bigger impact than CC. So still, Nero's better than CC if you have to pick between one of the 2.
Okay,
And that
next
goes
one.
again to what type of keep you've built as well. For the bigger keeps, if you find yourself getting rallied with more range attacks, look at your sub general from there as well.
For bear keeps, let's assume you're low spender, big trap keep. It kind of changes a bit. Rao here discovered a really good one that I completely overlooked. What was the name of it, Rao? Catarino something? Happened to Rao. Oh well. There's another general that I completely overlooked. Completely forgot the name of it.
I'll get it for you one moment here. Hang on a second. Let me get her name for you. She's the Russian sub general.
Yes,
She actually
yes, the Russian one.
debuffs siege. She debuffs siege, range, attack, HP, and defense as well. All,
Yeah, I
all
was really
three of them.
surprised. Yeah, for the red starring, it has that. I was really surprised because I was looking at the runes when I was checking if it was worth it or not, and I completely overlooked that one. I didn't check the red stars for that one. But for cheap, not really cheap, but for low corners, that might be a good one to help protect against siege and range rallies when you're getting rallied, but you don't have enough money to get the really expensive generals. So let's find the name of her. 1 minute, please. Blood, if you can you take over for a minute or two?
It's Catherine.
Catherine? Yeah,
Yeah,
Catherine
and
from the
I think somebody we don't want to speak actually tried to steal the thunder on that one for the
All right.
video as well. But yeah, Catherine, she's really good as well.
He who shall not be mentioned.
So what is the next question?
Do T1 matter for bigger keeps? I'm 27B K42. I'm not a trap keep. Would it benefit me to build?
The answer is yes. The answer for that one is yes. It really depends on your income. Unless you're kind of one of the top 10 keeps like Viper or Mountain or Greek or whatever, those people with 3K defense buffs, the answer is yes. For any mid-level or low corner, the answer is yes. Simply because when you're facing a really strong rally, the T1 mounts, even T1 flats, will take the most amount of damage. I mean, not the most damage, will tank the most until you're able to get your ground defense HP and yeah, both above 20, around 2700, 2800. That's the only time where another troop will take over at being the most tanky, the most meat shield. Once you're going to get about the close to 3K bus for on the ground, then yeah, you really don't need more T1s after that point. So next question.
No,
Can I hear you?
okay, wait. No, I'm just laughing at Rom. Okay. 1 minute. Isn't it because siege reinforcement depends on the person getting rain, siege debuffs? I think it's related to the earlier question. I was asking about siege reinforcements.
Can you say the whole question? Do not understand.
Isn't it because siege reinforcement depends on the person getting rain, siege debuffs?
Do not
Remember,
understand.
we had a question about siege reinforcement because those are not working well.
Yeah.
And you said that it's just because of the person who are reigning has low siege buffs,
Mm-hmm.
and they're asking about debuffs. Maybe is it because of the siege debuffs?
Yes, also that as well. Siege debuffs, I said, like before, debuffs has the multiplicative value. The higher your base buffs are, the more debuffs you add, the more overall stronger it is. And debuffs do play a part. If it's low, overall the performance drops. The debuffs affects both the host and as well the reinforcements. This is why you don't want to reinforce really weak keeps, because if they don't have high enough debuffs, you're gonna get crushed. When somebody else attacks it, because they be attacking with subsidies, and you will not be reinforcing with subsidies. All right, let's wrap it up. We have pretty much running out of time.
Okay, thank you for speaking my question. 1 second, Aru, 1 second.
Anybody has any foreign last minute questions? I want to answer by one or two more.
What's your favorite
Oh,
color?
he has a question.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I think that's it.
I think Hitman has a question. What was his question for Hitman?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think those are the questions, only questions. Yes.
What I'm surprised is nobody's asked how bigger keeps can hit trap keeps and not lose as many points. I'm not telling you.
All right. All right, guys. It has been fun.
All right, guys.
Mm,
Thank you very much for RST for all this. We appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, thank you
And
for
thank you
inviting
for the
us.
answers.
Yeah.
You know, our pleasure, guys. Thank you very much.
And Aru, you can do the open. We are doing recruitment. Remember?
Yes. We have a few keeps available. Anybody want to come over, hang out with us, play with us? Just hit me up. I will let you know what keeps we have, and that's it.
Bring cupcakes.
All right.
Yeah, bring cupcakes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, for
Yeah.
inviting us, and it's a pleasure being with you and sharing our experience with you.
Yeah. Shout out to Viper and the Vig gang for having us on. We
Yeah.
know that we finally achieved some status when we're invited onto the Viper show. So thanks for making